Are you sure you want to do this?
After nearly 2 years away, there's finally a new Marvel movie in theaters, and it's Scarlett Johansen's long-awaited solo Black Widow story, no less. Since her introduction in 1952, the Russian femme fatale has been wrapped up in all manner of Cold War plots and post-Soviet exploits, which gives her plenty of thematic and creative overlap with the great granddaddy of Cold War spy adventure, old 007 himself, James Jiminy Jams Bond. So since the comparisons are all but inevitable, let's take a look at the ways that Black Widow spins its web around the legacy of Bond.
You don't need to be an operative to see the obvious.
Black Widow starts us off with something that's different from most other Marvel films, but should be plenty familiar to fans of the Bond franchise. Kicking off with a lengthy prologue set in 1990s Ohio, we are treated to a self-contained introduction to young Natasha Romanoff and her Russian sleeper agent family as they flee from the feds and escape to Cuba and the welcoming, predatory arms of General Dreykov in the Red Room. This is a long-standing Bond tradition, from its innocuous opening, to David Harbour's death-defying plane stunts, right up to the abrupt ending as Natasha and her sister are drugged and taken back to the life that they thought they had escaped. From there, we slam right into a long opening credits sequence that should also be familiar. The MCU doesn't really do opening credits, but Bond is famous for them. This sequence trades Bond's customary flying guns and drifting female forms for something a little more intense, showing off a slick, grimy montage of brainwashing and human trafficking that's been set to a down-key cover of Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's no Another Way to Die, but the whole sequence is a pretty blatant nod to Bond, even if they do turn it on its head a little. Getting disavowed is hardly new for spy films, whether you're getting kicked out of the 00 program or the IMF, and Black Widow leans into this tradition hard, showing us the fallout of Nat's decision to back Captain America in Civil War. The super spy is shut out of S.H.I.E.L.D. and chased out of the country by Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. Going underground, she hides out with the help of her very own Q, Rick Mason. Played by O.T. Fagbenle, Mason shows up several times to deliver spy goodies and transportation to our heroes, and like Desmond Llewellyn and Ben Whishaw before him, he never quite gets the recognition that we all know he deserves for his hard work. A good quartermaster is never truly appreciated in his time. Natasha might not get a love interest in this, so there's no Bond girl. What would that even be? Nat's man? Widow fella? No wait, Spider-Man, huh? Is that already anything? Whatever. In the Bond tradition, that character usually serves to get 007 closer to whatever villain or clandestine organization he's chasing down and keep him more engaged in the plot. Black Widow's answer to this is Yelena Belova. Nat's sister is played by Florence Pugh Pew Pew, because Florence Pugh has a gun in this one, huh? You get it? Her name, huh? Gun Pew. Okay, cool. Anyway, she delivers plenty of pathos and keeps Black Widow on track in the quest to destroy the Red Room. And of course, what's a super spy to do without a heavy? The muscle behind the man is a time-honored Bond tradition, from Jaws to Odd Job and Mr. Hinks. These impossibly tough guys and gals are represented in Black Widow by the Taskmaster, an enigmatic powerhouse who can mimic the fighting style of anyone they see and who really twists the knife in Nat's belly by making her fight someone who copies the moves of all of her Lost Avengers pals. Finally, there's nothing like a little spy versus spy action. Just as Bond is a member of the 00 program and has to square off against other rogue elements from within his own organization from time to time, we're looking at you, Sean Bean in GoldenEye. The conditioning that the widows produced by the Red Room go through make them a deadly set of adversaries for Natasha and Yelena. Also, while we're here, let's just cut to the chase and acknowledge that Nat is watching Moonraker during the lead up to the first Taskmaster attack, so not only is 007 a thing in the MCU, Romanov has pretty wild taste in Bond flicks. I wonder if people who survived the snap catch Moonraker on cable and say, oh, he goes to space in this one? Way too plausible. I saw the president with a talking raccoon on the news last week. Inevitably, with a franchise as long and storied as James Bond, there's bound to be some overlap within the MCU in the acting department. Black Widow is no exception, as the Red Guardian himself, David Harbour, appeared as a crooked CIA section chief in Quantum of Solace. He's way more lovable and has better facial hair in this one. I mean, look at that mustache! Jeez, guy. There's another actor here who was in Quantum of Solace as well, though you could probably be forgiven if you didn't recognize her. Dreykov's hulking, silent mimic of a henchman, the Taskmaster, is revealed to be his badly burned and maimed daughter Antonia in the final stretch of Black Widow, and underneath all that burn makeup is Olga Kurylenko. The toughest Bond girl in recent memory, Kurylenko did fight training and a number of stunts on the set of Quantum, and even behind the mask she wears through most of Black Widow, I can totally imagine her chucking that shield around. While we are on the subject, let's also call out another Bond connection in the cast. While Rachael Weisz has never appeared in a Bond film, she's still married to the guy. Weisz and current franchise star Daniel Craig were married in 2011. So we've talked actors and the broad strokes of the spy genre, but how about some plot elements that line up between Black Widow and Bond? There are a few. During Black Widow's final assault on the Red Room, Natasha comes face to face with General Dreykov and gets a look at what he's really been up to since she defected to S.H.I.E.L.D. It turns out he's been abducting and indoctoring girls from around the world, building a network of innocuous spies and assassins who can be placed in near positions of power and exert his influence on the world. Sound familiar? Well, it's probably because that's almost exactly what Blofeld is up to, and Bond finds him hiding out in Switzerland in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Sure, Blofeld is running a clinic for extreme allergies in the film, but he's still catering almost exclusively to women who have access to the rich and powerful, brainwashing them into his angels of death. Natasha Romanoff has a distinct disadvantage in dealing with Dreykov that Bond did not with Blofeld. After years of powerful physical and psychological conditioning at his hands, she is unable to do Dreykov physical harm. But even that should sound a little familiar, as Bond finds himself in Blofeld's clutches again in Spectre, confronting the author of all his pain as the man straps him into a machine designed to condition him and make him more pliant. Of course, in all three of these movies, there is another common element: the villain's monologue. In both On Her Majesty's Secret Service and Spectre, along with, well, let's face it, most of the other Bond films, an incapacitated Bond gets the upper hand while Blofeld waxes poetic about his villainous masterstroke. Black Widow revels in this hallowed cinematic tradition during its climax as Dreykov reveals his whole plan to Natasha, who waits until she has everything she needs to bring him down before breaking her own nose to force her way through the conditioning and take action. It is classic stuff. Finally, let's finish out on something that is more of a coincidence than anything else, but a fun one. Black Widow and this year's Bond film, No Time to Die, both had their releases shuffled around a lot due to the global pandemic, but did you know that Black Widow is the 24th film in the MCU? That makes the entire franchise just as long as the venerable spy series. And No Time to Die and Shang-Chi will bring both of the series up to 25 films later this year.
Who's counting?
And there you have it. There may not be any elaborate martini orders or too many overt references, but it's pretty clear that the team behind Black Widow has plenty of love for the spy who came before them. Thank you for hanging out with us, and now, if you'll excuse me.
All right, let's go.